Hello and welcome again to Bruno Latour in 12 Easy Pieces. As I told you in the first part of this YouTube series, I spent most of my academic career at the Center for Sociology of Innovation at the École des Mines in Paris. In 2006, however, I left that environment and moved into politics. Well, not directly into politics, but to the Paris Institute of Political Studies. At the same time, my research interests shifted significantly from the anthropological study of science and technology to ecological issues, the climate crisis, the Anthropocene, and so on and so forth. Now, this shift had already been anticipated, in a way, a few years earlier when, with the book I'd like to discuss today, Politics of Nature. Published in 2004, this book was funded by the French Ministry of the Environment with the explicit goal of outlining the foundations of ecological politics, or as I later called it, political ecology, that is, politics that places environmental issues at the center of its considerations. From waste to water supply, to the burial of radioactive waste, from high-tension power lines to pets, to farm animals, and wildlife services in Africa. These were major issues facing society at the time, and in many respects they still are. I admit that all of this is quite complicated and perhaps entirely unsuitable for this Easy Pieces series by our beloved theoretical puppets. But don't worry, we'll find a way to approach this as well. So, it's all about politics. Specifically politics in Western industrialized countries like France. And what are the fundamental features of this kind of politics, if you think about it? That's right, democracy, through parties, elections and parliaments. Discourse is an element of this, debates and votes and so on and so forth. Now, have you ever wondered where the term parliament comes from? Oh, from the French word parler, of course, meaning to speak, or more precisely from parlement, meaning conversation, but also negotiation. In other words, politics is about speaking, about understanding and misunderstanding, and thus about translation. Now, in a sense, then, it's what I've called exegesis from the very beginning. Now, my move into politics was then perhaps not so unusual or unexpected. You could also see it as a kind of generalization of my earlier contributions to science and technology studies. I've always understood science and technology as exegesis. But you see, I can also conceive of politics in this sense. And then both science and technology on the one side and politics on the other become permeable to one another. Actually, science has always been political, and in a certain sense, politics has always been scientific. Perhaps you recall that this had already occupied me in my book, We Have Never Been Modern. What interested me at the time was the question of how Historically speaking, the separation of science and politics came about. Boyle as a chemist on the one hand, and Hobbes as a political philosopher on the other. Now, against this backdrop, it's not particularly surprising that in Politics of Nature, I argue for overcoming the modern division of our public life into two spheres or houses. On the one hand, the house of nature or the object, and on the other, that of society or the subject. So I bring Boyle and Hobbes back together. More precisely, I want us finally to recognize that they were never truly separate. Science has always been a kind of politics, and politics was never entirely separated from science. The moderns have rather successfully repressed this perspective. That is precisely what I'm opposing, as the book's subtitle indicates. I'm interested in how we can bring the sciences into democracy. Now, I don't want to go into the details of my proposal. That would take us too far and would certainly no longer be easy. I'll just say this much. The former separation of nature and society is to be abolished by two new institutions, two new houses of a future parliament. An upper house that answers the questions, how many are we? And a lower house that addresses the problem, can we live together? The crucial point here is this. The upper house deals not only with the human actors in a society, but also with the non-human actors. Its central task is to understand who actually belongs to a society. Do animals belong to it? How about rivers or lakes? On this basis, the lower house then makes decisions about how to manage and control the coexistence of human and non-human actors. Of course, this then multiplies the exegetical problems. For can we truly give a voice to animals or to plants? And if so, who is allowed to speak for them in their name? The scientists or some animal rights activists? In my view, these are the central questions that political ecology must address. From today's perspective, one might wonder why technology plays hardly any role in this, especially since I explore technical objects as non-human actors at length in Aramis. Today it's quite obvious that our coexistence, our interaction with all these chatbots, large language models, and artificial intelligences forces the question, how many of us are there? Well, what can I say? Maybe it's because the book was written for a Ministry of the Environment, not for some Ministry of Economy and or Technology. And yes, I probably also didn't pay enough attention to the fact that even the puppets raise the question of how many are we? We should definitely listen more to the puppets. But anyway, the other projects I've been working on since have also led me in a different direction. More on that next time. That was the 8th easy piece. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay tuned.